All right, welcome. This is Chuck
And Casey.
with the Knowledge Through Gaming podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, today Casey is going to be playing Turmoil. So this is a game is based on the 19th century oil rush in America. At the beginning of the game, you start off, what was it, like 40,000? I think is what you start off with, and then you
You
have to
start with 20,000.
20. Okay,
20.
so it was 20,000. And you have to start off, you bid on plots of land where you want to end up searching for oil. Every level you will actually start off with 2,000. That never changes. That's the consistent amount throughout the entire game from beginning to end. At least on the difficulty I did. I don't know if it changes, but then you'll use this $2,000. That'll be how you start finding oil. You can use it for dowers, which when I was looking through the history of oil exploration and drilling, could never truly find what a dower was. And a lot of the videos would show men like jamming large poles, like sticks into the ground where I believe oil was bubbling up, maybe to see how deep it went. But other than that, I could never find out what they were, and this game confuses me so bad because all they do is wave that stick around, walk around, and somehow find oil. You did perfect right there.
Oh, no, right?
Hit that bad boy right on. Yeah, but then you also have to buy the horse carriages, the oil derricks. You have to pay for the pipeline to drill. Later on, you'll have to buy other stuff like drills to get through stone, yada yada yada. And then you will eventually unlock new technologies such as gas collection. You'll be able to get scanners. You have the mole right now, which you can do. That one goes around and searches various spots. Eventually, you'll even get upgrades such as bigger wagons, bigger pipes, stronger drills, numerous other upgrades to help you try to beat out your competition and getting more oil out of every plot of land you get. It requires a lot of balancing between drilling for oil, storing it, and then selling it. Just because if you see on the video, if you're watching that, the price bounces up and down, such as it's just under $1.40 at lefting, but then again it's going down towards 40 at righting. That's $1 in difference. So if you sell to the right one, you're just ending up screwing yourself on your income. Then if you fail, you can cause oil spills by letting too much pressure build up. That results in you getting fined. You have to deal with stuff like that.
That's never a good thing.
What's that?
That's never a good thing.
No, that's especially when you get behind. It's usually really hard to get back in sync and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then yeah, such as oil spills, they'll affect how much price you or how much you have in fines at the end of the game. If you spend a whole bunch of money drilling and find nothing, then you end up wasting a whole bunch of money, and you have to try to compete with all your opponents and hope that they made less money than you did. Then you actually have to pay individuals, or you can pay individuals at the tavern. They'll be able to keep like prices high. I know there's one where he'll keep it at a certain level at minimum on one of the two sides. There's one that'll help you overlook oil spills. If you have diamonds later on down the line, one will tell you which maps have a good amount of oil in them. That, or you can even borrow money from the bank at super high interest rates.
That does not sound like something you want to do.
No, it gets bad unless you truly need it. I ended up one game using it to buy the scanner, and it was a complete waste of money.
Oof.
It ended up screwing me in the long run.
Yeah.
And then you'll go through 4 different areas with a final island awarded to the winner, whoever bids to be the mayor. The only real thing that changes is you end up getting like pockets of gas. There'll be stones you have to drill through, stuff like that. Yeah, as I said, later on down the line, you actually have to outbid your competitors to become the mayor. So along with buying upgrades for your business, you also have to try to shares to become mayor, and you have to get like 25%, I think, at least. One of my biggest issues I had in this game was forgetting to stop selling to certain companies. especially like you're selling 10 to write ink right now, I'd hold the speed button and completely forget that I was selling
Oh
pen ink.
no.
Yeah, and then by next time I look, I'd have it'd be like 40 cents, and so I'd be selling like massive amounts of oil for essentially nothing.
Oh, that is terrible.
And then I never got into the Heat is On DLC. I guess it adds magma and other stuff to the game.
Oh god.
Honestly, from what I played in this game, I like it, but it wasn't one that I could justify sinking a whole bunch of time into.
No.
I enjoyed it, but then again, I have a whole bunch of other backlogged games I'm trying to play. So
You and me both.
and that's about it for the game. We'll go over it a little bit more as we go down the line. I'm going to put a sponsor link in right now, so we're going to play that. We have one sponsor as I know of right now, so it should be Anchor. Anyways, we're going to play that now.
Ugh. I think I hit my max number of horses.
Oh, yeah. All right, and then we are back from our sponsor. Yeah, it's really sucks when you run out of horses because it takes a lot, especially because you got what 3 active rigs right now, and especially
I got
if you
4
have
what?
Oh yeah, you have 2 active right now. But if you get them up to like level 2 and stuff, it ends up becoming such a hassle to try to balance the horses along with trying to keep. So a lot of this information is going to be pretty boring. I tried to pick the most interesting. It's the history of oil. There's not a whole lot to it. Then I was going to focus on American history of oil, but then I realized a lot of information here in America gets we're number 1, where America's the center of everything. And when I looked, there was a lot that happened way before America and outside of America. A lot of the oil rush did happen inside, but that's, I mean, really neither here nor there. It just with the creation of the automobile and everything, that's just what happened. So a lot of it will focus towards there. I tried to go outside, but there was just so much information and a lot of important stuff happened inside.
Where in the heck did this... Oh, there it is.
Way at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm like, where the heck is he finding this?
Yeah. Then we eventually want to get like books, but just right now it's not feasible. We have at least 2 more podcasts that we're gonna hope to be doing here within like the next week, so I can get those. Gosh, what's it called? I can't even think of the word. But get those episodes finished up. The main source we used on here would be a YouTube video by Tycoon Energy Inc., which I would then look through different various websites, the most reputable ones, and it seemed a lot of the information they had was pretty correct. And then, Casey, do you know what petroleum actually stands for?
I do not.
It's derived from the Latin words petra and oleum, which just means rock oil.
Oh, that makes
Pretty
sense.
straightforward. Crude oil is unrefined petroleum that is thick, obviously flammable, and it ranges from yellow to black, which I did not know could actually be a yellowish color. I always thought it was just straight black. And it's a concoction of a bunch of hydrocarbons and other organic materials. It's a non-renewable source that takes millions of years of heat and pressure on organic compounds to produce.
Okay.
Generally it takes a large amount of organisms such as plant, algae, and bacteria that were marine life that are covered and then transformed into this carbon-rich substance known as crude oil. The main difference between coal is coal is actually carbonized plant matter that was produced from marshes or swamp environments that actually turned into peat bogs. That was one thing I found pretty interesting. The history of crude oil goes back to around 3000 BC with the Babylonians around Iraq.
Okay.
They would use crude oil that leaked to the surface for waterproofing their boats.
Oh,
Yep, then they'd use it for mortar for construction, adhesive for weapons, jewelry, and other art.
okay.
This primitive source would allow for the evaporation of water, and then it'd leave more of a tar-type substance that our early ancestors used for a lot of building projects. Then a couple sources I came across actually said that like Egyptians used it for mummification of their dead as well.
Oh, damn.
And then American Indians and Persians actually believe that it would have medicinal uses, which we'll find out later that it actually does. It's used in a lot of modern medications.
Okay.
And for a long time, the surface collection that they used more than met the demand for these medicines just because of the low amount that they needed overall.
Yeah.
And then if you're religious at all, the first like recorded use of petroleum was believed to be with Noah's Ark. It was what he waterproofed his boat with. And then another thing I found pretty interesting was Noah, when he built his ark, was about 500 years old. So I feel like a giant baby when I complain about a 10-hour shift, since I'm only 29.
Oh, yeah.
I had actually never known that he was 500. I guess probably because I'm not super religious. And then oil would not really be drilled until around 347 to 600 AD in China. From a few sources I found, this was a farthest back one that I found. It's kind of hard to tell as a lot of sources jump around and point to other places. It was a reliable. Gosh damn it! All right. Then the Chinese would use bamboo pipes with spear points to drill into the ground. Then they would use the oil carried by these pipes for heating and lighting purposes. It seemed that they build large wells to bring the oil to the surface via digging then, which seems like it was a super hazardous and dangerous area because a lot of these structures were wood, and with it being petroleum and like very flammable, because a lot of the pictures I showed, the oil derricks were actually all giant wooden structures. And then they dug from the top downwards in like a stairs pattern, so it looked a lot like the band Devo. Their hats like upside down is essentially what it looked like.
Okay.
Then yeah, you've heard of Greek fire, correct?
I think a little bit.
Yep, it was believed that that was actually a substance that was made from petroleum, but it would never really be known because the Greeks guarded the secret so well that it was eventually lost to history.
Oh, dang.
Yep, other nations would actually build similar weapons, but they would never have the exact same composition because this one would ignite with contact with water. So the Greeks used it a lot to burn enemy ships.
Okay. I can't imagine that would be pleasant to be burned by.
No, and that's terrifying because all you do is see it pouring out onto the water and igniting in the flames, and then if water's igniting, it's obviously not going to go out for a while.
Yeah, no, that does not sound pleasant.
And then napalm is a petroleum-based substance as well. So dying by either of these sound like an absolute horrible way to die.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Many of the sources I actually looked into stated that the city of Baku in Azerbaijan was actually one of the first major oil-producing areas as far back as 1273 or farther. They used it a lot for heating, and then paraffin wax for foods.
Okay.
And then Azerbaijan is actually over near Russia, Armenia, and Iran. Yeah, from everything I remember when we were in school, I don't remember Azerbaijan at all. I don't ever remember hearing of that place, but quite a few sources actually pointed towards Baku having oil production almost a decade before the United States at least.
Okay.
Even as far back as 800 AD, depending on what source you look at. And then, yeah, crude oil was heated to a point where it would make that paraffin wax, where it would separate from the rest of the components, and then be used for things such as cosmetics, food production, and manufacturing. It's odorless, tasteless, and smell. And then it's used like for food protection. It's used for the outside of cheese, prevent it from molding while it's being aged. And then before the invention of kerosene and gasoline, pioneers would actually be searching for water or brine wells, only to strike oil and be disappointed. They'd actually be upset that they found oil instead of water.
At that time, they really didn't have too many big uses for it, did they?
No, other than those Native Americans using it for medicinal things, the U.S. had no need for it. I mean, today, if we found oil in the backyard, I'd quit my job and be shoveling it into a drum with a spoon if I needed to. But then the oil industry would become more popular in 1837, where it would be used for more paraffin and then for lighting and heating. And then the first modern oil well was actually drilled in about 1846. The two main sources at the time for lighting homes were candles and whale oil. Candles are obviously bigger and required changing, and whale oil was expensive and far harder to obtain, and was becoming more scarce. This actually pushed for people to seek an alternative, leading to the creation of kerosene around 1852 by Canadian Abraham Gesner. Gesner actually used a technique similar to the one used by oil distillers, where heat would be used to separate the components of crude oil. Kerosene was actually cleaner to burn, it was brighter, and it lasted a lot longer than its alternatives. The price difference was actually $10 a month for whale oil compared to $10 a year for kerosene. And then with this advancement, the collection of crude oil went up so high that the hand collecting was no longer cutting it with a few hundred gallons a year. It actually went all the way up to about 500,000 gallons a day when they started drilling. And then George Bissell would actually hire someone by the name of Colonel Edwin L. Drake after hearing about potential oil in Pennsylvania around 1857. And then he had no background in oil, nor was he ever like in the military, as the title of colonel would state. They actually gave him that title so he'd seem more competent to the people in the area and more well respected. And then Drake would actually seek help from local water drillers in the area.
Okay.
And he'd hire a man named William Smith, or as the locals called him, Uncle Billy. Which I'm not really sure I'd hire anyone named Uncle Billy. It reminds me of the Dowers in this game. It just doesn't seem like it'd be too professional.
Yeah, no.
I guess back then you went more off from their skills than their actual nicknames. Smith would actually create a wooden battering ram where he'd smash pipe into the ground searching for this oil.
Okay.
Until he hit bedrock. And then once they hit bedrock, he actually would have to attach a steam engine just to be able to dig farther down.
Oh, dang.
Oh, did you just use a scanner?
Yeah.
How'd that work for you?
Pretty well.
I mean, yeah, I have always had issues with it because I never knew how far to go down, and then it'll change size if you don't, like, scan quick enough so you can get a bigger scan.
Yeah. I don't know, I got like a tiny little circle.
Yeah, I think you can buy the upgrade where it'll make it bigger.
Okay.
But anyways, after you attach that steam engine, they would actually lower a long pipe with a closed-off end down and actually bring that back up to the surface and dump it into a container. It was a pretty slow process. This would be done after oil was struck in late August of 1859. The whole operation it had taken months of drilling. They had nothing, and at the time they were nearing being canceled because they couldn't find any financial backers at all. This would end up causing a gold rush type event that would end essentially the same way as the gold rush. A whole bunch of people would flock to this area, and it'd eventually run out of oil.
Well, that ain't good.
Towns popped up quickly, and then people would make or break fortunes based on them bidding for land, just like in the game. They would essentially not know what's on the land, and then people would spend millions essentially for land that had sold for just dollars a short time before, only to find out there was possibly no oil even on that land.
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah, and then in the early stages of Turmoil, you can actually see it with the stable, the workshop, the saloon, the bank, and the factory all popping up within those first few months. It was a lot like that for all these oil towns back then. They would actually just pop up once oil was found.
Okay.
Yeah, and then yeah, you'd bid like the bidding wars you had like the other night when you were playing, where the AI was outbidding you just to try to see if you were actually going to find oil or not.
Yeah.
That would actually happen in real life.
Okay.
The town around this first strike was actually abandoned later on due to it ran out of oil, and Drake was left penniless and died in 1880 after having such an important discovery. Do you know who John Davison Rockefeller is?
I do not.
Yeah, I had no idea how he got so rich and famous. The only thing I knew was from Cy Amundson's joke about Toledo, where he was in the Walmart with the woman and she was screaming that she wasn't the Rockefellers. I actually had no idea why they were so rich.
Okay, so that's how you get that sucker bigger.
How you just leave it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the scanner. Yeah, I mean, it pays off if you can't find the thing, but other than that, it costs a ton of money.
Yeah, it does.
Then I came across a story for someone named Dr. Bill Livingston, who was apparently a cancer specialist, though he was neither a doctor nor a cancer specialist. He had actually abandoned his wife and 6 kids to take up this other name after a rape charge. Then he married another woman and had 2 more kids in another affair. He actually was a cheat who was selling the snake oil that was labeled as a cancer cure, which was just a mixture of laxatives and petroleum.
That sounds unpleasant.
Yeah, so essentially, if you didn't have cancer, you would after that from drinking petroleum. I'm sure. I don't think that could be healthy for you drinking just crude oil.
God no.
And then you'd have the laxatives too. So, and then this story's important, so everybody doesn't think I'm a moron going on a ramble. This was actually William Avery Rockefeller, or the father of John D. Rockefeller, who had a huge impact on America's oil history. And then I tried not to go too far into Rockefeller with this, just because I didn't want it to be a whole episode on his life. I mean, he is super important to little things, but then again, he's part of it. I'd rather do a whole another episode on him just because his life is so long in and of itself. He has so much. Rockefeller would actually get into the oil business in 1863 after starting a successful produce food shipping firm that did well during the Civil War. That business was actually started on a $1,000 loan from his father, who charged him interest on the money.
Oh God.
Yeah, and given his father's backstory, that's not really surprising. Rockefeller actually ended up seeing far more potential in oil and purchased his first refinery in 1863.
Okay.
He'd partner with Maurice Clark, who'd eventually bring his brothers in, and a chemist named Samuel Adams. After a few years, he bought out all of his partners except Adams. Later on, Rockefeller would actually bring his brother in, and they would go on to create the Standard Oil Company. During this time, oil drilling startups were super cheap at the time, and even refineries could be started from like 10 to 15K. So, I mean, just as easily as you start one, you could have 6 other people start one at the same time.
Okay.
And then Rockefeller would partner with Henry M. Flagler in 1867. which was a perfect pair for him because apparently Rockefeller, from a few of the stories I read, was more of like an introvert, and this Flagler was actually an extrovert, and the pair would become a very ruthless and efficient set of businessmen. They would actually go on to make up essentially a monopoly. They would purchase up large amounts of timber, which they would use to create their own barrels for transporting the oil, along with the iron to make their own cooperage, which is barrel making and drying plants. This would cut the cost of barrels actually in half from their competitors. So then they also ended up purchasing the manufacturing of the sulfuric acid to purify their petroleum, along with the wagons and boats for transportation and the storage facilities. And during the time, it was normal for a lot of refineries to actually dump the leftover waste, essentially anything that didn't result from the production of kerosene, into rivers or other areas nearby, but they did not. They would actually use this waste and the components of it to make like the paraffin wax. They create cleaning fluids, lubricants, and other items that they'd sell to other companies. So they had like minimal waste from it. And then plus, due to the company's size, they were actually able to seize railroad rates that essentially crippled their smaller competitors, because if Flagler didn't like what rates they were charging, he'd simply tell them that they weren't going to pay those rates due to the amount of oil that they shipped.
Yeah.
And then this expanded to a point where eventually Rockefeller and the Standard Oil owned 90% of America's refineries, and then around a quarter of all the drilling wells. 1879. So like in the game right now, since you only have two people you can sell to,
Yeah.
essentially Rockefeller owned both of those, or there was a good chance that he owned both since he owned 90%. Then one of the few major competitors of theirs would actually be the Noble family and the Rothschilds, which the Rothschilds were another one I didn't know were into oil. They're into banking over in Europe, but they would actually be working in the Caspian Sea area around that time. The main drilling sites that have really been found have been America, like Texas, the Caspian Sea area, Venezuela, the Middle East, and then in Russia.
Okay.
1897 would lead to the first real offshore well, which was produced by Henry L. Williams and his associates in California. They would actually go out onto the Pacific on wooden piers and then drill from the piers into the ground. And then this would evolve in the 1930s into drilling via barges, and these barges would contain everything to drill for oil, including the drawworks, the derrick, the hoisting equipment, and this was all on a wooden pile platform that would be sailed to the location to drill.
Okay.
Then this gets us up to about the Turmoil time period. Wells were actually drilled and then lined with steel pipe to bring the oil up. While drilling, the bit would become dulled, so the oil workers would have to pull these huge segments of pipe up. You got to think, bedrock, I believe, was, I don't remember how many feet down they said it was, but it's like a couple of hundred to get to decent oil spots. So you have to think they have to draw these huge segments back up. And it's obviously not one huge thing. That's why oil derricks are so big. From all the videos I saw, the oil derricks, they would be lined on the sides with these huge shaft segments that would then, once it was drawn up, they would actually unscrew it, place one to the side, and then continue pulling that other sections up as well.
Okay.
And then same to go back down and drill again. It'd be pretty much the same thing. Just changing out one drill bit would be a multi-hour process.
Oof.
The pipes, then while they were functioning, were actually flooded with a muddy, chemical-treated water that was used to cool the bit and actually protect the shaft from caving in. Then they'd have like huge reservoirs. Early petroleum drilling could not have been good on the environment, just between the ways they dumped it and everything, and like all these chemical treated waters, because all they did was have like giant baths. Oh yeah, you actually made it up to the part where you have to drill through those rocks too.
Yeah, I don't quite got the drill for that sucker yet.
No, and I hate when you run into that while you're trying to get oil, especially right off the start of the game. That becomes such a pain. Yeah, now in the game, there's a lot of instances where actually don't make sense. You're not actually doing it right now, but you can essentially drill in any direction you want off from one of the end segments. Like you can drill it like a 15-degree angle straight like back towards the surface, which in real life, oh, you want to get that diamond right there too. You're gonna want to use a mole for that.
Yeah.
But
My biggest problem is I don't know how I'm gonna get through these rocks to get to that.
that huge oil vein.
Yeah.
Do you have the drill yet or
I
no?
don't. I should have bought it.
Oh yeah, you're gonna want to try to see if you can drill around. You're gonna have to keep scanning then.
Yeah.
But yeah, which I mean, this will explain it too because you can drill in essentially any direction you want. Which, from everything I found, that does not actually happen. That was when it actually come around to horizontal drilling, which was later in like the 1900s, like mid 1900s. And then scanning, that's one that I looked around for. That didn't really come around till like the 1930s even.
Yeah.
And that was they put dynamite in the ground and then you record the waves on like geophones, I believe they were called, trying to find out where oil was. So
Yeah.
and then yeah, capping off segments too. Later on, when you find the gas reserves, they will actually allow you to cap off segments. Which I mean, if you think about it, there's no way they would have been able to do that, especially way back in this time period, because there's no way they'd be able to get into the ground just to cap one off, just to divert the oil. And then in the start of the 1900s, there's one invention that would actually shake the entire oil industry and pose a huge risk to all petroleum refineries. Do you happen to know what that invention was?
I do not.
It was Thomas Edison's patent 223898, the electric light bulb.
Oh.
Edison proposed electricity, and the light bulb is an extremely cheap way to light somebody's house. And as Americans were previously super reliant on kerosene lamps for their lighting needs, this caused a huge issue for oil refineries. Because if they lost all kerosene production to the light bulb, at this time it would have essentially crippled the entire. There would have been almost no need for it again. And around 1901, they'd actually come to find massive oil reserves in Texas,
Okay.
which Rockefeller actually turned down buying.
Ooh.
Which is surprises me, but he didn't believe there was any oil in that area, which would turn out to be a blunder for him, because this would turn out to be one of the largest oil reserves in America. Nearly 5 billion barrels. What's up?
Hit a rock.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna have to drill from that one segment you got over there.
Oh yeah, this guy right here. Let's just see
Yeah,
if it's clear over here.
Right oil derrick. Holy crap. Can't talk about it. Yep, and then in 1930 near Tyler, Texas, would actually be one of the first uses of a rotary drill. 1 second, I gotta blow my nose real quick.
Oh, you're good.
Holy goodness, my cold has not been getting any better.
That's not good.
Then yeah, I actually found out what a barrel, why we measure gas and petroleum production in price per barrel. A barrel actually contains about 42 US gallons, or a little less than about like 159 liters.
Okay.
This would go to eventually lead to obviously the price per barrel because this is how it was shipped, so that's eventually how they would end up pricing it.
Yeah.
Later on in 1908, it would actually lead to the first discoveries in the Middle East, where Western companies would actually exploit these countries,
I get it.
but due to their lack of technology and knowledge. The Middle East would come to provide around 60% of the world supply at one point, which would lead up to the creation of OPEC. That I actually remember from high school. I remember that being a huge thing where OPEC actually had a huge control over the price of gas. Which
Okay.
OPEC was oil producing exporting countries or something like that. God, gosh dang it, let me check that. I completely forgot. Before. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. And then, yeah, I remember in like, what was it, the 90s, early 2000s, where they had like such a huge influence on oil production that they actually raised the price a crazy amount.
Oh, jeez.
And then eventually, with America going back towards leading the oil production, they'd actually essentially have very little influence again. It's And then who comes to the rescue just in time? It was none other than Henry Ford for the petroleum business, because he created the combustion engine-driven automobile. His introduction of the assembly line actually created inexpensive vehicles to the point where in 1927 about 1 in 5 Americans owned an automobile. And since the light bulb was gaining popularity around the same time, the need for kerosene just transitioned into the need for gasoline.
Okay.
And it obviously would eventually far surpass kerosene, so if you think about it, for the petroleum production business, it was actually a good thing.
Yeah.
And then around the same time, there'd be an alcohol-run engine that was available. The oil giants weren't interested in this and actually worked to have it shut down. During Prohibition in the 1920s, this killed the engine's chances of ever gaining any popularity. This wasn't because of the ban on alcohol. They were still allowed to produce alcohol for the engines, but they were required to put petroleum in their ethanol to make it toxic, so no one could drink it right out of the pump.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. Be a new level of drunk driving right there.
Taking a sip as you fill up your vehicle.
Pretty much.
Thermal cracking would actually come around in the 1913, around then, which added to the pressure to the heating process of refining petroleum, which helped with the extraction of gasoline. Then 1921, seismic exploration was first experimented using seismic waves. This was what I was talking about with the scanning earlier. It was used for subsurface imaging in Oklahoma by William Hazeman and a few other gentlemen. Seismology was where they put that stick of dynamite in below the surface and then they'd ignite it. Then waves would bounce and reflect on surfaces beneath the surface, and it bounce off like oil and stuff differently. So then these geophones would actually record that.
Okay.
With advancements, explosives were eventually no longer needed, and it was originally used to record earthquakes and to find German artillery during World War I. The two world wars would actually lead to yet another huge increase in demand for gasoline, diesel, and other petroleum products. This came from the creation of the tank, the airplane, and a lot of ships were being changed over to the engines to make them move instead of like coal burning and stuff like that. Then during World War II, Africa and the Middle East would become huge zones of conflict for the superpowers. They were trying to secure these deposits. After World War II, Roosevelt and Churchill actually signed the Anglo-American Petroleum Agreement with the Middle East, as they were trying to secure future oil commodities for their nations, which then would lead to huge issues with OPEC and stuff later on. This is actually going to be where we're going to end the timeline, essentially. There was a lot of information to go over. There was a lot that I missed. There's a lot more out there. It was so much to cover, and especially to stay in line with this game, there wasn't really much further we needed to go. There's a ton of other things we can look into, such as like fracking, OPEC, the Suez Crisis, the Gulf War, new technologies. A lot of those recent pipeline fights and other oil disasters. Which, I mean, if we find another like oil game, we can eventually do that. I mean, there's so much information we can go on to.
Oh yeah.
And then like with Rockefeller's life, him on his own, we could go into an entire at least couple hours on his life. It'd be like super easy to actually create an hour podcast just on his main parts of his life.
Oh geez.
And then what all is crude oil used to make? It's used to make a lot more than I remember, or that I ever knew about. It's actually heated to various temperatures to obtain different byproducts, essentially, that are then turned into different products that we use. It's used to create liquefied gas, gasoline, plastics, synthetic clothes, drugs, cosmetics, aviation fuel, kerosene, diesel, heating oils, ship fuel, asphalt, roofing tar, lubricants, tires, food preservatives, like that paraffin wax, but then a few other ones.
Yeah.
Actually, remember that Subway scare where everyone was freaking out that they used chemicals that were in yoga mats in their bread? Yeah, I don't remember looking into that, but I remember that hugely. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that.
I had not heard that one.
Yeah, I don't know, you'd have to Google it or something. I just remember into it. I still eat the stuff with cardboards. After all those looking I've done, there's a lot of stuff that petroleum's used in. Yeah, but it's also used in soap, vitamin capsules for like any of your vitamins or medication capsules.
Yeah.
Candles, aspirin, toothpaste, lotion, shampoo, deodorant, shaving cream, pesticides, fertilizers, contact lenses, which is obvious, and then of course your favorite, chewing gum.
Yeah, I won't be chewing any gum since finding that out. Spillage fine.
You must have spilled. I didn't end up seeing a spill, so I don't.
It was earlier in it. I gotta.
Oh, you made out like a bandit, though. You made more than all them combined.
Yeah, I did. Now I can drill through rocks.
Yeah,
Dang, I did that again.
What did you do?
I accidentally exited out of the game.
Oh, you're good. And then once you said that thing about the gum, it made me interested in the history of gum. And actually, prior to World War II, gum was actually made from chicle, which is native. It's like a tree native to Central America.
Yeah.
They actually tap it a lot like maple. And then, due to its rising popularity, it was actually made from like synthetic rubber due to it gaining so much popularity, and the chickle's only able to produce like 2.5 gallons per tree per year. So it essentially made it so it was not feasible to make it from chicle no more with such a high demand.
Okay.
I mean, that's always an alternative. You look into finding actually gum that's still made from chicle as well.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more natural, obviously, and renewable. And then one of the last things I'm going to go over is actually its effect on our environment, which a lot of that I thought about when I was looking at all them, how they would just dump the leftovers from kerosene into like oil lakes and like giant pools, which made me think a lot of like the Exxon Valdez spill and stuff like that, and all the huge disasters we've caused. In the game, if you don't collect that oil from your derricks quick enough, they eventually build up all that pressure and shoot out oil at the top, which obviously leads to you getting fined. But it has a whole lot more of an effect on the environment. The spills like that actually can get into the water table and poison local watering supplies. And this is, especially when the game is based, this is a time when they essentially needed these oil wells as there wasn't really any other option. Like, they didn't have huge water purification plants like we do today. And so when it was dumped into these local streams in the surrounding area, it'd also kill off the wildlife as well. Much larger oil disasters would come in the 20th and 21st centuries. Use of petroleum gases actually leads up to the build-up of greenhouse gases, which actually heat up the planet, which is a whole different thing to go into. I'd actually like to look into some of the conspiracy theories on that one, just because I know so many people are against it.
Yeah.
And then the release of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide actually cause acid rain, which can destroy the local area. I didn't know anything about acid rain until I did this research, and acid rain will actually even destroy concrete statues.
Oh.
Like, it'll melt the faces off from them and stuff.
Oh, that's terrifying.
There's one city where they actually put like a tarp over their statue because they get such heavy acid rain that they don't want it to be destroyed.
Yeah, no, I bet. Jesus.
And I mean, this does come from burning coal and gas too, the sulfur and nitrogen, but a lot of it comes from like petroleum and like just when they don't filter, like giant factories don't use any filters for their smokestacks. This leads into a lot of that as well. That's essentially everything that I have for the research. So what do you think about the game overall? I mean, a lot of this, there's a huge history behind all this stuff, and I think the game does pretty good. I mean, if you think about that beginning where they're building up the city and they only give you like a month or a few months to build, and then buildings start popping up, that's pretty on point. While getting it to the companies, and then, I mean, I guess I don't really see how it would have been so, the price would change a lot, but I don't know, it was crazy to see how much of an influence Rockefeller actually had on it.
Yeah, no, I think the game does a pretty decent job.
Yeah, they stick in pretty good in there, and a lot of the things that you can get. Plus, I mean, the mole's pretty cool. I mean, obviously that's not feasible.
Yeah.
But then again, from the side, it's obviously, if you made a true game on oil production, that would be super boring.
Yeah.
Because it'd be you standing in an oil well changing drill bits every couple of hours.
Pretty much.
But yeah, especially just for the type of game it is, and I mean, we ended up getting it free off from Twitch, so...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, especially for free, it is a super fun game. It's just not one I could get really hooked into. Like I said, I have so many other games to play. This one does. I mean, it adds stuff, but it is kind of repetitive overall. Other than that, I mean, the biggest complaint I had was I was an idiot going to the factories, even though the price would end up dropping down. I mean, that was usually my own fault.
I may have done a little bit of bribery to make sure that old righty there never goes down.
I didn't even see you do that. I was like, oh, it hasn't moved off 99 cents in a while.
And I also paid, I gave my diamond away to a guy that was going to find me a very lucrative plot with a lot of oil.
Oh, so you went with his plot that he told you?
Oh, yeah. Look at that friggin' monster down there on the right.
Yeah, that one is huge. That is a massive reserve. That's what I do like about this game, too, is it is very random, and you can either get screwed, like they did in real life, where you get bid on those plots and can find like one reserve, That is, you
Yeah.
can get a massive one like that. I mean, it's a chaotic game. I just ended up getting too bored. It was a whole lot of the same thing, essentially. But yeah, other than that, next episode's actually going to be Tharsis, which I'm actually looking forward to.
Yeah.
It's a very dark topic, due to it being space shuttle disasters and tragedies based on what the game is. But the game I like. And
I stopped paying attention again for 5 seconds, and I'm about to have another dang oil spill.
yeah, I don't know. I always max out all my cards like super early on. Just see that oil one there. But other than that, you have anything you want to say? Otherwise, I think we're pretty much good on this episode for now.
No, I don't think I got too much to add.
I was gonna say I don't either. We don't have any followers yet, so
Yeah.
if anybody does listen to this, like and subscribe to our stuff. You know, go to the Facebook page. We have the Knowledge Through Gaming Facebook page. We have one where you can contact us, and then there's an open page where you can share stuff and talk to other people that may eventually listen to this. But give us ideas on what we can make better. It's just the two of us, so we've even changed like a ton of stuff around since we started. But even then, we don't know what people want to hear, and we don't know what games you want to listen to. So eventually, once we get a fan base, it would be nice. That way we can actually tailor some of the stuff and make some changes that are useful.
Where is he seeing oil at? Oh, there it is.
Where?
All the way down there.
Oh shoot, yeah, I don't even on mine, watching you stream it, I don't even see where it's at. I just see the barely little top part of it. But yeah, once we get more people, it'll be a lot more fun.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can actually make something out of this and, you know, actually figure stuff out. Get it down to more of an art, and that's the randomness we've got going on now. Plus, once we're not as busy, it'll help.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get a following and I can actually justify wasting time and putting more time into it, but right now it's just the time sink for nothing at this point for me.
That's for fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's for fun, but I want to get some episodes out so we have them. Other than that, I don't think I had any more updates. This was something I wanted to say from when we did the last one, but other than that, I think we're pretty much good if you don't have anything else to say.
No, I think that about wraps it up.
Alright, gamer, then join us next time.